Hello, everybody. Episode 16 of the Ball Guys. Opinion starts in 30 seconds. Hello, everybody. Today's guest, man, to me is a treat. For those that know me, know that my favorite all-time band is Chicago. I had the privilege of seeing them live 2 years, a little over 2 years ago. My children, my wife gave me tickets, and my wife and I drove from Florida. We're now in Texas, but when we lived in Florida, we drove out to North Carolina, and we got to see Chicago live. And today I have Walfredo Reyes Jr., drummer from Chicago. Man, he's worked before Chicago. He did Santana, Gloria Stefan, Traffic, Steve Winwood, just to name a few. And for the last 10 years, he's been with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band, Chicago. And let's welcome him on. Wally, welcome. And once again, thank you for being on, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, man. So, I mean, let's start with hearing a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how you got started with music. Obviously, I know you get it from your dad. Your dad was a musician. I don't know if he's still playing, but your dad was a musician for a long time. But let's hear a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how you got started in music.
I come from a musical family, mother's side and father's side from Cuba. I left Cuba when I was 5 with my dad, and then we moved to Puerto Rico, where my stepmom is from. And then I grew up in Puerto Rico listening to all kinds of different music. My dad's music, my mom's music, Latin, jazz, you name it. And then, of course, I became a rocker. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. So, in Puerto Rico, when I was in the 7th, 8th grade, I was listening to the radio stations, of course, and bought all the 45s, the Rolling Stones, Beatles, the Grassroots, Guess Who, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, you name it, all the rock and British, rock American and British bands, radio station. And then I wanted to play drums. So my dad started giving me drum lessons. I was playing percussion for fun also. So I always played percussion and drum set. And so then at that time, 1969, 1970, we moved to Las Vegas. And my dad had a job there at the hotels in Las Vegas. And from there on, I started studying and working. And that's been my life right there. I started my first gig when I was 16 in Las Vegas. I had to be,
wow.
He had to put me in the musicians union and give me a sheriff card because I was a minor. And so then, I figured it out. I love music, and I started making a living making music. I had a couple of other jobs, like being a busboy, and really quickly I realized I really got to do. I cranked up. That job made me study more to become better at music, so I don't have to do a day job and just dedicate myself to playing music for a living. No matter what style, no matter what instrument, I was composing songs, translating songs, playing percussion for dance school, teaching percussion, playing drum set.
Wow.
Rock bands, lounge bands, backing up comedians, jazz trios, Broadway shows, no matter what. So from there on, I decided this is it. And then I moved to Los Angeles in about 1980. and continue my career in more recording studio. And from there on, the rest is history.
That's amazing. That's awesome. And I saw that when I was looking at your uh, besides Chicago, you've done Santana. You were with Santana, right? For a
Yeah.
stint, right?
So, in 1980, when I moved to Los Angeles, it was, I was going to say, I was like the king of Vegas. I was working a lot in Vegas, but I decided to up the level more, to recording and to be closer to the industry. So I basically, from Las Vegas, took a down step and moved to Los Angeles. I still had a gig, but you call it paying dues. I did weddings, bar mitzvahs, Italian
Wow.
weddings, birthday parties, casuals on percussion, drums, events, in around 1984, after 4 years of being in LA, just playing around and stuff, I got a gig with Tania Maria, which was a jazz pianist from Brazil. And we toured with Spyro Gyro and David Sanborn, and I met a lot of different people in the jazz world. And then I met a bass player that asked me to play with David Lindley. So David Lindley, that used to be the steel guitar player, multi guitar player, string guy with Jackson Brown. We had a band, David Lindley and El Rayo X, from around 1985 to 88. So in that period, I met Jackson Brown and I recorded with Jackson Brown. I met a lot of people through David Lindley, Andreas Vollenweider, Kazu Matsui. I did tons of sessions, went on the road, and then we opened up for Santana and the Grateful Dead. And that's when I met Carlos. And
Wow.
Carlos asked me to audition. So I got the gig in 1989 with Santana from 1989 to 93. Then in 1994, I went with Traffic, and I worked with Steve Winwood for about 10 years on and off. Meanwhile, I worked also with Jackson Brown, um, Robbie Robertson, Gloria Estefan, Bus Gax. I worked with Steve Winwood until 2004, and 2005 with Mickey Hart. I'm sorry, 2007 with Mickey Hart. 2007 to 2011 with Lindsey Buckingham, and I started with Chicago in 2012.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And
Wow. So
I'm
you
tired. I'm
yeah.
tired, Jessica. I
Wow. So
should retire.
man, let me tell you something. And it's funny you say retire because I my family, they know that I wanted to go see. Man, I want to go see Chicago before they decide to retire, or before they decide to. I've heard Bobby Lamb say that. Well, they will always have Chicago, even if the originals all of them retire. They will always have Chicago the band. But I wanted to at least go see them in case Chicago ceases to exist.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
Robert Lamb said it, and also, funny enough, like Lindsey Buckingham said it. Our music that we created, this thing called Chicago, and then with Lindsey, Fleetwood Mac, it's bigger than all of us in the band, because after they're all passed away, the music will continue, just like we play Sinatra and we play songs of John Lennon and George Harrison, and they're not with us anymore. But what they
right.
created is bigger than all of us, and
and
so
they
it will.
still and they still sound great today.
Yeah,
They
I
still
mean,
sound great today.
yeah, those guys, will not. Um, they're perfectionists. They want to sound great, and the minute that they won't sound great, they'll call it off.
Yeah.
So there's no, they're not going to go on stage to suck. So like, and we have a tight band right now. I mean, the band has gotten so tight on stage and off stage that it really is a great musical force right now. So we're really ready to go with to go to Vegas, and then we're gonna go and tour around the states, and then we start the Earth, Wind, and Fire Chicago tour, July, August, September.
I would love to go see that. You guys are actually coming down. You guys are coming over here to Texas in August. I would love to go see that and see you guys in Earth, Wind, and
Yeah,
Fire. I know you guys were together with them. What, back in 2015, I think it was, or
yeah,
16.
yeah,
Yeah,
15, I think. It was
and
great.
it was right. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I got to see it on YouTube, and man, that looked like a great concert. It must have been awesome to have been there live. So, um, who were some of your influences besides your father? Who else was some of your influences?
Man, my influence are so many that
I bet.
I probably have to say all the drummers everybody listening know, and many you have no idea. I mean, from different countries, and there's a lot of young guys right now coming up. You know, I see them in Instagram, young dudes that are like, uh, I my influence have always been, I love, of course, the virtuoso drummers. The drummers that are amazing, on technique, and some in Instagram that are just like, oh my God, like who is this guy? But my real influence are guys like Steve Gadd that have recorded from the 1970s, 80s, 90s, 2000, and continue to successfully do records for
Mm-hmm.
50 something years and be creative. Jim Keltner, J.R. Robinson, and in the past, like Jeff Porcaro, Carlos Vega. These are guys that can come in into the studio and record any style of music and groove, make the music groove, and make the song great by their drumming. That is something. And with that, I say it doesn't have to be complicated drumming. Sometimes the mature drummer that basically knows without playing much can make the music breathe and sound great. And sometimes when the time comes, okay, I need to take a solo, or I need to take something I need to do something really creative in this song that is really intricate drumming. So, Steve Gadd is a perfect example. I love Vinny. I love Dave Weckl. I love all the rock band drummers. The drummer from Stax, Al Jackson, Benjamin from Motown, uh, all the jazz drummers that have been with every band from Tony Williams, Billy Cobham, Philly JoJo, Max Roach, all the legendary drummers, big band drummers, Buddy Rich, Louis Bellson, Mel Lewis, very simple drummer, Shelly Manne, Grady Tate. There's a lot of drummers that Bernard Purdy did a lot of recordings, knew what to play and what not to play in the songs. So I love every kind of drummer that you can imagine, from funky drummers, James Brown drummers, and then all the bands like Ringo, Charlie Watts, John Bonham, different styles, Ginger Baker, Danny Seraphin with Chicago, Bobby Colomby with Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Gaylor Birch, Cold Blood, David Garibaldi, Tower of Power, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I mean, bands had drummers that shaped that music, but then there's also the drummers that were not with a band particularly and just played a lot of different music, a lot of different styles for a lot of different artists. So I really admire that too. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Now you mentioned Danny Seraphin. What did it feel like to step into a role that I know you started percussion with Chicago, which they didn't have percussion before. Let me start with that question first. What did the whole percussion come about?
Well,
How,
Chicago had a percussionist, Luigi de Oliveira, in the 70s. And
okay,
he was, before Chicago, he was playing with Sergio Mendes. He also played many sessions, like I believe Feeling All Right with Joe Cocker. That's him on congas. Um, and he was a great percussionist, and I was very honored to know him even back in the 70s.
Okay.
Going to a rehearsal, Sergio Mendes, and then he had the gig with Chicago. He got the gig with Chicago. So then in the 80s, Chicago didn't carry percussionists. They went more like the David Foster, the ballads and all that. And then they actually started getting a percussionist again with Tristan Bowden playing drums. And then my brother came in temporarily playing percussion, and I subbed my brother Danny on percussion, and Chicago asked me to stay, and so I stayed on percussion from 2012 to 2017, and in 2018 I came in on the drum set. Now Chicago knew me as a percussionist, but certain guys in the band like Lou Pardini and Keith, the guitar player, also I had some albums, and obviously what you do you can erase. It's out there. So Robert Lamb and Lee have heard me as a drummer with Steve Winwood, and obviously especially I'm a Man, which Steve Winwood wrote the song. We did it a little different style than Chicago does it. So when it was time to go to the drum chair, it was almost like I tell people, I knew the road, I just had to drive a different car. So the drum chair is a little bit different, a little more responsibility, the tempos,
of course,
and leading a little bit more, and then the percussion colors, and then Ray Islas started playing percussion with us. I've known the Ray for a long time, since the 90s, and we worked together a lot. So it was really easy to start in 2018 playing drum set and Ray on percussion. My brother was playing percussion before Ray, but my brother got the gig with Zach Brown Band and was made a member.
Okay.
So he went on tour with Zach Brown Band. So it worked out really well for all of us.
Yeah. And let me tell you, and I remember the solo that you and Ray did in that concert, that when we went to North Carolina, I was amazed, and I had to record it because my daughter was in band in high school, and I recorded. I sent it to her. I go, look at this, because she was in percussion, and it blew me away. The solo that you and when you and Ray were together playing back and forth, that to me blew me away.
Oh, so thank you.
You guys, awesome job. Now, how did it feel stepping into the role that Danny Serafin started with Chicago, and then Tristan Bowden? They both did a great job. How did it feel filling those shoes? Which, by the way, you've done a great job.
Well, thank you. Well, it's I don't know why, but my career, I don't know. I can't explain it because it was not on purpose. I didn't set out to do this to become the tour drummer of legendary artists. But when I joined, it's been like this actually with everybody, from Tanya Maria. When I joined David Lindley, there was a drummer before me, Ian Wallace. So I had to take over that book, of music, that body of work. And then when I joined Santana, as you know, Michael Shreve was the original drummer, and then Undugu, Leon Chancellor, and then Graham Lear, drummer that used to be with Gino Vanelli, was playing with Santana. So I had to step in a book that many people have wrote, the drumming. So I step in, not trying to show forget about Dan, listen to what I have to say. No, it's none of that. It's like you take over where they left, so the band can continue to tour comfortably. Little by little, you can add your thing if they allow you to. Then from there on, it was Steve Winwood. So when I stepped into the traffic chair, I had to play on drum set Jim Gordon parts that he recorded, like Low Spark of High Heel Boys. And also Jim Capaldi was the original drummer with Traffic. And then when I started going out with Steve Winwood, I had to do all the parts of the bands from Traffic, Ginger Baker with Blind Faith, and Steve Winwood, which was J.R. Robinson. J.R. Robinson and Steve Ferroni and whatever drummers he recorded with.
Right.
So you stepped in and you imitate, you lock in the parts, and then when you do something fresh and new, then you can create something completely fresh and new because there's no precedent. There's nothing to listen to before this song. But if you're doing something that has been recorded, a legendary song, you have to pay respect to the parts. And so that's what I do with Chicago. I brought back as a drummer many Danny Serafine classic fills and drum breaks. I said, no, we got to have that. And so instead of me doing my thing, now these guys in Chicago allow me and want me to bring some fresh stuff, because it's not 1970. It's
Right.
2024. And they want me to do something different sometimes. And sometimes they don't. So it's, when I say it, when I come and sit in the drum set before the show with Chicago, I bring Danny Serafin and Tristan Bowden in my heart, just like when I used to sit with Santana.
Awesome.
I used to sit with Santana, and some things were Michael Shreve, some things Undugu recorded, some things were Graham Lear. So, I was not the original drummer, and I was not the original drummer with Lindsey Buckingham either. And so I had to basically get into Mick Fleetwood parts. And then in some recordings, there was nothing. Lindsey basically told me, come up with something here and this song. And then I did. But, if there's a song like Go Your Own Way, obviously that's a Mick Fleetwood has a DNA in that song.
Yeah.
So that's how I approach playing with legendary bands. I come in paying respect to the parts that have been written and recorded.
And that blows me away, the humbleness that you bring, and that I love that, because you're paying respect to those that have come before you in your current in the whatever band you're in. And many people will step into a role, whether it doesn't matter where it is, whether it's a band or whether it's at a job, they're gonna step into, well, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna change everything around. And that's honorable that you pay respect to Danny Serafin and even Tristan Bowden. Obviously Tristan Bowden did record some things. He recorded 21, Chicago 21 onward.
Yeah.
And now you've done some new stuff. You've done the Christmas albums and even the latest album that you guys recorded. And again, I gotta tell you, great job. And I'm glad I got to my first Chicago concert ever was seeing you behind the drums. That was amazing, and I was honored to be there.
Well, thank you so much. It's really an honor because, as you know, we played 2 hours with an intermission, and we still have like about 10 hits that we can't or don't have time to play. So the band chooses the order of the hits to fit the show. I mean, because you cannot do all the ballads, and become like a ballad show.
Right.
You just cannot do that. So you have to create with the hits a show that the energy level goes up, and then you end the show in a high. A lot of people say, why don't you do this? And why don't you do that? And why don't you do this? When we did the Chicago 2 concert tour in 2018, we played a lot of the outtakes of Chicago 2, and people didn't recognize the songs. They were going, why don't you play some of the hits and stop playing all this new stuff? And, it was really funny because they don't know. People remember the hit songs. And they might be a lot of people that like the obscure uh, B-side cuts, which I love personally. You know, I love all the music.
I love me too. Me too. Let me tell you something. And that's one thing about Chicago. I was just telling my wife yesterday this. What makes a band great is that when you get an album and the entire album is good, the entire album, and in well in the records back then, the A side and B side, both sides are good. That makes a band great in my book, in my opinion,
I
and that's what
agree.
Chicago is. I mean, every album, I don't see any album Chicago has ever made bad. I think every album, not every album has may have been successful. Maybe they may not, but in my opinion, I've loved every album. You
Yeah,
know,
me too. I mean, you know, and people, this happens not only with Chicago, but people go, oh, they don't sound anymore like Chicago. But remember, these guys were like 19, 20 when they recorded CTA,
yeah, yeah.
and they were composing songs even when they were younger. So they brought these songs to be recorded with CTA. I mean, you remember when you were 19 and 20 and everybody out there listening to this, were you the same person as you are right now? No, you have to
Mm,
change. So as an
absolutely.
artist, as a doctor, as an engineer, as a gardener, as a chef, whatever you are, you're not the same when you were 19 and 20. And I know I wasn't. So with that being said, people, there's a lot of people that want Chicago to stay CTA. They they
No,
they they don't even want to hear Chicago 5, Chicago 6. These guys have 30 something albums, and you cannot expect musicians like Santana. You know, it's not the original band. Foreigners, not the original band. Journey's not the original band. Even the
mm-mm.
Rolling Stones is not all the original band. There's only two left, Keith
Yeah.
and Mick. The rest are not original band members. So, like, you have to continue uh, playing
To
the
evolve.
music. Yeah, but you are not the same person. It's not the
No.
same energy. So now you got a group of musicians like Chicago right now. We can actually do a whole album of original songs in the studio tomorrow. But that's not what we're on tour. We're on tour to play for the people the soundtrack of their lives. That's our job.
And I love that in the concert, you're not getting just CTA, you're not getting just 80s, you're getting a mixture at a concert, like you said. You're getting, and I love how you said you guys are playing back and forth. It's not just ballads, it's not just 70s rock, it's a mixture. And I love how in these concerts, because obviously in the 80s with David Foster, he removed the horns. I love how you guys incorporated the horns into the ballads. I
Yes.
love that.
Well,
That's genius.
you know, we do have a genius, and I consider him a genius because the more you dig and the more you learn. Jimmy Pankow, he told me stories. He was a frustrated drummer because he wanted to be a drummer even
Really?
before the trombone. Yeah. So with that in mind, Jimmy arranges, and I've learned this through the years. All the horns fit into a groove. So you don't have to abandon the groove to hit the horn lines like in some horn lines. If you're playing boom, ba, boom, and it's like, oh, back to the groove. I mean, with Chicago, you can play the drum and then the parts are there. You can kick some, but not leave the groove. And that's because when you have and I recommend this to every horn player, arranger, or everybody, play the drums because it will help you arrange better. There's parts that are off the groove and parts that are on the groove. And great songs, if you hear like Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones arrangements of horns, the drummer doesn't have to step out of the groove to kick the parts.
Yeah.
So there's like lines that fit really well, and that's how Jimmy thinks. I mean, Jimmy hears a song, and he doesn't arrange the horn parts just to arrange horn parts. He arranges the horn parts that the song feeds him. So he hears the horn parts once he starts listening to the song, the lyrics, and the groove. So that's Jimmy Pankow. So when you hear all the parts, Robert wrote a few lines of some of the songs, like "Free," the song "Free." Uh, that
Great song.
yeah, horn feature. That was Robert, but I would say most of the horn lines are arranged by Jimmy. And let's not say he's a um, songwriters Hall of Fame. He's written a lot of hit songs also.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of the Hall of Fame, then without due respect, was very disappointed not to see Peter Cetera there. I heard the story. I heard the. I grew up when I'm from I was born in '76, so by the time I got into Chicago, it was David Foster era. I learned of the of '70s Chicago later on in life, and they go, "Holy crap! This is the best music. This is amazing music." And then when I heard about the Hall of Fame, I said, "Yes, they're gonna get to perform. All of them are gonna get to perform together again." And then, boom, the disappointment with Peter Cetera not being there. Because whatever drama,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these bands like that are legendary bands, they have things that the public will never know. They're like,
yeah,
just like a divorce or your siblings. Hopefully, in a perfect world, everybody gets along with each other. There's forgiveness, compassion, empathy. But, there's some grudges. I know drum companies that have grudges with each other, and even family members don't talk with each other, which is really sad. Uh, as I recall, you know, Peter Cetera could have been there, but he wanted to, let me go back a little bit. When Peter Cetera started having big hits at the same time David Foster recorded Chicago, now you have two different situations. The singer with Chicago has to go on the road to sing his songs and big hits, only Peter Cetera. And then Chicago has hit songs, and they have to go on the road to not only do Chicago music, but the new hits like Inspiration, Hard Habit to Break, Chicago 16. So like, what do you do? So, Chicago cannot wait for Peter Cetera to finish his year-long tour or whatever, so
right.
then he can join Chicago. So, you got to move on. So they had
Absolutely.
Jason Chef joined the band, and they went on the road, and Peter Cetera was on his own doing his thing.
And Jason
Uh,
Chef did a great job. Jason Chef
yeah,
was awesome. He was
yeah,
he
he
was
was there for 30 something years. So, so with that being said, that number, 30 something years, and all of a sudden you're going to do Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Peter Cetera cannot come after 30 something year of not being with Chicago and change everything. No, you join us for a song or two, which he could have, and then he wanted to bring part of his band, and he wanted to change arrangements and keys, and I don't know what he wanted to do, but the band said no, 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 no,
of
no.
course
we're
not.
we're we're on tour. We're gonna go Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Danny Serafin will join us, and then if you want to join us, and basically we're just gonna play the songs that we have been playing, and then we continue to go on tour. If you want to join us, fine. But it was like so much like, no, no, I got to do this and we got to do that, and I want to bring this, and then we have rehearsals. No, 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 no. It was not that kind of thing. So he decided not to come, and we did it.
Yeah,
And
no, and great job. And let me tell you something. I love. I've seen it over and over again. I've watched it over and over again. Great, another great performance.
Yeah.
You guys never disappoint. You guys never
Well, thank
disappoint.
you. Thank you. I
Of
mean,
course.
this guy's take it seriously. We don't have these guys don't rehearse. I mean, this is like a train moving forward. Uh, it's funny because people think that we rehearse a lot, and basically, like right now, it's Monday, Tuesday, tomorrow, Wednesday. I meet the guys after being off for about a month and a half. I meet the guys to do a private show in Palm Spring, and then we do a private show in West Palm Beach. And basically, I'll see the guys on the downbeat. There's no sound check, no nothing. I mean, I see the guys and I see my drum set right before I set up on stage, and I'll play the drums on the first beat of the first tune, and then we do the same thing, and then we start. Uh, in February, we're gonna do a tour around Texas, and we do Las Vegas. Everybody comes from different parts of the United States where we all live and meet at the downbeat. There's no rehearsals the day before or a long sound check or none of that. Our crew sound checks, we come in, I see my drums at the downbeat, and I hit my drums in the last note of the last song. And again, it happens on the next show. So if I want to play drums, I better do that on the side or here in my little studio where I have I don't know if you see
I do. I see it. I see it.
my studio drum set back there. If you want to, their motto is, we've been doing this for 50 something years. You do the homework. I'll see you in the downbeat. We know the songs. We wrote them. We've been doing them for 50 something year. We're not going to rehearse the songs again for you. You do your homework and see you in the downbeat. If you cut it, you continue on the train. If you don't cut it, somebody else will be in your place. It's that simple.
Yeah, and that amazes me because I did not know that you guys do not rehearse. I did not know you guys do not do sound check. I did not know that.
Oh yeah.
That's incredible. And again, when we saw you guys in concert, I thought you guys had set up. I thought you guys had the sound check and all that stuff. And
No,
that's amazing. That's
we get
amazing.
there. We get there at 6:30 for like say like a 7:30 show. As soon as we get there, we do a meet and greet and get ready for the show. If we have some powwow to talk about something, we do it while we're in the dressing rooms. And Robert and Lee, we're all are accessible to each other. And sometimes, like 20 minutes before the show, it's like, "Hey Lee, how you doing? Hey Robert, what you been doing? Yeah, you had a great time. Yeah, we went to Hawaii. Oh yeah, wow, great, this and that." And we're all ready for the show, and we're saying hello to each other, this and that, and Robert might come with an idea, or Lee might go, I think we're gonna play this tune on the next few shows, so learn it. And he sends the email with the song or the chart for the horns, whatever. We just do it, and we just do it.
Now, let me ask you this because I, when we went to see you guys live, it was the last. It was a couple months before Keith Howland left due to his injury, and Lou Pardini, and it was like almost like within a month or so that they each left the band. Then a few months later, we got the bassist, the bassist left.
Yeah.
And there was rumors that wow, the band is falling apart, this and that, but it looks like you guys are still kicking. You guys are still kicking butt, and you guys are still going. So I'm so happy that you guys were able to find great replacements. Not taking anything away from Lou Pardini or Keith Howland, because Keith Howland was awesome. Let me tell you something. Keith Howland, he's another one that kept Terry Kath alive.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Well, Keith was with the band for 20 something years.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that happen to bands personally and musically. Most of the guys that are not with us, the situation was mostly personal. is it was a personal stuff. Whether it affected the music, maybe yes and maybe no, but they're all personal stuff, and sometimes it's just personal.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you right now that my December was a hellhole because my younger brother passed away from the most horrible form of rare cancer. So that was a very personal thing. It cannot affect me musically. So I didn't play for the whole month of December. That's why now I have the sticks on my hand and I got to start back at it because, a death in the family. We all go through trials and tribulation,
Yeah.
personal things, death, illness, death in the family, you name it. And sometimes you gotta, get up and put the belt on your pants and put your head on and go out there and not have your work be affected. But a lot of the times when the band is not falling apart, when there's a member that needs or is going through something, like what happened with Tris. Basically, it was a situation and a point in his life that he was newly married, and the more gigs we had, the kind of like the less happy he wanted to work less. So it was a different situation. We arrived in different situations in our lives.
Yeah.
So Lou, and there's nobody that sucks that has been with Chicago. Every member that is not with Chicago is a badass. And so, like, the reasons that they're not with us, some might be public and some might be nobody's business.
Yeah.
It's not. It's
Absolutely.
not. I'm not gonna discuss my divorce with the mother of my kids with you, or my the death of my brother in detail. That's nobody's business. So, like,
Absolutely not.
there are things that the people will never know and should not know. And
Absolutely
and
not.
the fact is that Chicago, whoever is in the band, is in the band because there's another badass, completely married and dedicated to the music of Chicago to bring it. Otherwise, Lee, Jimmy, and Robert will go, this is not the guy.
See ya. Yeah.
Right. So, there's a lot of drummers that go, oh, you don't sound like Danny Seraphin. It goes, well, if the band wanted Danny Seraphin to be in the band, he would be in the band and I wouldn't be
Yeah.
talking to you. But if I would be doing a bad job and Lee and Robert and Jimmy don't like me, I wouldn't be in the band.
Yeah.
So
You would have been 11 plus years in the band if you were not good.
exactly. So, people sometimes, it's not the majority of the people because the majority of the people are really nice and I'm always helping drummers. But, you get some people always like going, you know, uh, Danny should be in the band and you should be doing this. And well, I don't work for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
The day that you can pay me more than what Chicago's paying me, then I'll do whatever you want me to do. But I do whatever Lee, Robert, and Jimmy ask me to do in their songs. And if they want me to do something different, I'll do something different, whether the people like it or not. And sometimes I do some things I'll bring on my own. Like I say, you know what? I'm going to do the Danny Seraphin fill exactly. And they love it. And then in some songs, some of the guys ask me, just do something. I wonder what would come up with in this song. And I went, well, I can do that, but I really love the way it was on the original song. He goes, nah, just do something fresh and different. Okay. So I do that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's not all throughout the show, but in some specific songs. And I try sometimes something that might be against. I might want to do more like what Danny did, but now they're asking me not to do that and to play simpler or to play a different fill. So I try and I do it, and if they like it, I'm working for them. I'm not a band.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not a original band member, and I'm not the boss. I'm a tour drummer, and I'm working for them. And just like I'm working when I was working with Santana, Lindsey Buckingham, Lindsey wants me to start on the bell of the cymbal. I mean, I can come up with something different, but that's what he hears. I'm there for service. I'm a service. When and this is not just with Chicago. This is with any situation. If you hire me for whatever, percussion, drums, I will ask you, what are we doing? What kind of song? And maybe you send me an MP3, and I'll ask you, what's your vision? What's your wish list? Like, what do you hear? Because I'm working to make your song better and satisfy you as a musician, going like, man, this is what I want. And I give it to you, just like a restaurant. You order a cheeseburger, I go, I don't do that kind of stuff. Let me do something different. No, no, no. You ask for a cheeseburger and you're paying me. It's that simple. You're a
It
session.
makes total sense. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, I'm
Absolutely.
there to play my ass off for the guys the best I can. And I do that. That's what I've been doing for 51 years. That's why, I might not be the most famous drummer on the cover of magazines. I don't have an Instagram with my right hand going 1,000 miles an hour with my feet. I don't make a living showing off my chops. That's not what I started to do. I started to actually uh, exactly what I did when I was 16 years old. First job was with Debbie Reynolds, and she asked me to play percussion on Come Rain or Come Shine. It was really challenging because it was really fast. And then I started working with Lola Falana as a dancer, keeping up the concept of tempos, for dancers and grooving to make the dancers dance. Then I started working with Marilyn McCoo, Paul Anka, Ben Vereen. It was all about them, and they were all different. So I had no formula. It was basically, my only formula was, what is it that you need from my drumming, and what are you looking for, and what makes you feel good and shine. And with Santana, the same thing. It was not if I played my ass off. It was about, what did I play that make him shine and play better. That's what I'm going for. It's not about me. It's about them. So when I come and I go on tour to work with Chicago, I'm representing Chicago musically and
Right.
personally, because that matters also. If you're a butthole in the front desk of the hotel, they're gonna say, "Oh my God, Chicago, the band was here, and they're complete buttholes," because you were
Yeah.
a butthole.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
represent the name of the company you're working for wherever you go, in front of the busboy, in front of the waiter, in front of a Uber driver. You are representing off the stage Chicago, and on the stage, my drumming speaks the songs, the music language. And when I get off the stage, I got to watch that I'm not insulting people and completely being a butthole. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Of course. Of course. You represent the whole group. You represent
Yeah.
the whole band. Absolutely. And yeah, you mentioned your brother. First of all, my condolences to you and your family about
No,
the
thank
loss of
you.
your brother. Also, what about how's Mr. Parazita doing? How's his health doing? Walter Parazita. I know I know he's was diagnosed with an illness. How's his health? Have you guys
Well,
heard from him? How's he doing?
yeah, I'm in touch with some members of his family, and Alzheimer's is a difficult thing. I've had it in my
Yeah.
family, where in the last days my grandmother didn't recognize me at all, and so they're dealing with his illness. Some days are better than others, and he's retired, obviously.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and a lot of people, they're like, I'm not gonna go and see Chicago until Walt, Lauji, Danny, Peter Cetera are in the band. Well, that ain't never gonna happen. Peter Cetera is
No, it's not.
retired. He's not
Yeah, he
even
is.
doing his shows. So he's gone. He's like retired.
Hmm.
Danny's doing his own thing with his California Transit Authority. Some of the other bands are playing Chicago band music, and some of them are doing their thing. Like Tristan Bolton has a great band of like yacht style, which is kind of like 80s, 70s,
Yeah,
80s kind of music, and the band sounds great. And just like I have side projects, I have my own little trio here in Cincinnati when I'm off with Chicago, and I teach and I continue to record for people from
Mhm.
right here. You can see the drum set.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I do.
So it's tweaked and set up to record. So I send files to, you name it. I send files from people to like China, India, as far as Sicily, Calabria. I mean, you get these days. It's an amazing. We're living in an amazing era that you get somebody in Instagram, like we did to get this interview going. I received and I said, "Hey man, can you put drum set on my track?" And we figure out the arrangements and this and that. And I give him my email, and all of a sudden I get a we transfer of a track. I listen to it. I put drum set to the track, and I send it back on a file. And where are you? It goes, "Oh, I'm in I don't know, France." I'm going, okay. So it doesn't matter if they're like next door in Ohio or France or Saudi Arabia or Dubai. It doesn't matter. It's become like an amazing one world kind of place.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of technology and social media.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what is your favorite Chicago song to play? I mean, do you have one? Do you have a couple? What is the one that said, man, this is the most fun song for me to perform?
Well,
Whether it's
that's a
whether it's original, whether it's new, what?
well, it's really interesting. Uh, so I'm CTA was my first record I bought when I was in the 8th grade mowing
What?
lawns. So, when I bought CTA, obviously that was all the music when I was like 13, 12, 13. It was the soundtrack of my life, and it mattered a lot. So was Sunshine of Your Love by Cream and Abraxas with Santana. So beginnings, CTA songs are the soundtrack of my life when I was young. And then later on, I got married when I had kids in the 80s. So the 80s music became also a soundtrack of my life of an adult Wally. And so, and I always continue to be a fan of Chicago's music, whether it was a hit or not.
Right.
Uh, with Tris playing drums and with Danny playing drums. So I would say drumming wise, the ballet and introduction are pretty intricate songs and challenging to play. Beginnings is probably my emotional favorite songs to play because I still get goosebumps even playing the song because I know Jimmy, Lee, and Robert, and they're friends, and sometimes we share meals together. But all of a sudden, I'm on stage and I hear, "Oh, the beginning, da 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 da," and I get goosebumps, and I look on the stage and I'm going, "Oh my God, that's the Robert Lamb. That's like the Robert Lamb that I was listening to when I was in Puerto Rico, not ever even thinking that I was going to live in the United States, not ever thinking that I was going to play. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, so it just like comes at a different moment. And emotionally, I love playing beginnings. All the songs are amazing. I love all the songs.
And and you say you live in Puerto Rico, and coming from Cuba and living in Puerto Rico, I love Puerto Rico. As a matter of fact, we're heading to Puerto Rico in August for my mother-in-law's birthday. She turns a big 7-0, and
Oh, wow.
we're gonna surprise her and take her to Puerto Rico. Well,
Nice.
now I gotta make sure she doesn't watch this episode. Yeah, that's gonna it's gonna spoil the surprise. Yeah,
Shh.
but my wife and I went to Puerto Rico for our 10-year wedding anniversary 13 years ago, and we loved Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
We loved
it's
Puerto Rico.
a little island compared to Cuba, but it has so much. It's they're U.S. citizens, so you have everything that you have in the
Yeah.
U.S. and a lot more. And of course, the people, the music, the food, the beaches. It's like a really great culture.
Yeah, yeah. We stayed for 4 days. I wish we would have stayed longer, but again, we loved it. We loved it. Wally, you before we wrap up, we you shared the stage with so many other bands as far with Chicago. You guys have done the Beach Boys, REO Speedwagon, Earth, Wind, and Fire. How is it sharing the stage with those other bands, and who has been your favorite? You don't have to say what
Well,
have a favorite. How does it feel to share the stage with those other bands?
well, we love REO, the Doobie Brothers, especially when we did songs together. Many years ago, we did that, and then the last few tours, they did their show and we did our show, and then we went home and we weren't hanging that much. But with Earth, Wind, and Fire, it's a horn band. So it's a horn band, and we are a horn band, and
Mm-hmm.
we will play 6 tunes at the end together on stage. So basically,
Yeah.
we do one Earth, Wind, and Fire, one Chicago, one Earth, Wind, and Fire, one Chicago, one Earth, Wind, and Fire, one Chicago, and we end the show that way. So we go on, Earth, Wind, and Fire plays, Chicago plays, then we play together. So we're gonna be doing that on this next tour, with like we did in 2015, and people love that. In fact, they actually buy tickets just to see that.
That's awesome. And I remember the REO Speedwagon concert that you guys did in the one that's available on YouTube and the one you guys did in Red Rocks. I loved how the horns were implemented into the REO Speedwagon songs.
Yeah,
That was once again, genius.
yeah, with that being said, something that we were talking about on stage, off stage, those guys are class. I mean, REO, the Doobie Brothers, the guys from the Beach Boys, the guys from Earth, Wind, and Fire. There's not one guy that you go, I don't know about this guy. I mean, so it tells you it's a testament to how great they are as a person and off stage and on stage. Because once you finish playing your instrument, you're back to be a human being. So like to be the greatest human being that you can be and be the greatest musician that you can be, that's where it's at. And when I actually have a group of people, like we're hanging out with those guys with REO and Earth, Wind, and Fire, and they're all like so giving and nice, and I'm if you don't know who they are, you will go, man, who is this nice guy? I love this guy. Who is he? Well, he's a famous singer for REO Speedwagon, a very famous guy. And so you go, you're kidding. So like you can say the same thing with all the guys, Tommy and the guys from Doobie Brothers.
Yeah.
I'm friends with all the drummers. People think out there that it's like a competition, and no, it's not. I mean, we have a drummer dinner hang, because we know what it takes to play drums with these legendary bands and go on the road and be away from our families. So
Yeah.
when I'm with the drummer with Earth, Wind, and Fire, or the drummer with REO, or the Doobie Brothers, we all connect as a team. We're all in this together. So that's why I say to all the guys out there, that's what I say. Try to be the best drummer you can, but when you drop your sticks and you're done, then you get up and you try to be the best human being, the best father, husband, son, friend, neighbor that you can, because that will affect your drumming. Because you cannot be the same thing happens on stage. You got to be forgiving. You got to have empathy. You got to have consideration that the singer's gonna sing, and you got to play something to make them comfortable. There's life past the cymbals. It's not just about you playing here.
Yeah.
It's you're there as a team player, just like you're gonna go out in the trenches with a platoon of people, and we're all in this together moving forward. So like you got to be aware of the music and the song and the players that are around you, and it's all a group effort to make the best music possible. So with that attitude, you can tell that's how these bands are successful. That's why they're successful.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's funny you say that. There was I'm not gonna say the name of the band, but there was we were gonna go see a band live, and I ended up getting rid of the tickets. I did not want to go see them because of how a couple of the band members react publicly. I'm not gonna go support a band that. So it's amazing how you say that. Yeah, you are, whether famous or not famous, whether you're known or not known, people are gonna go see you, but don't act like a scumbag outside this off stage.
Yeah.
Behind, you are a human being and act like a human being. Don't act like an animal. Don't act like you're better than anybody else. You know, and so I love that you say that, and and you can tell genuinely that how some of these bands behave and act outside, in the real world.
Yeah, some musicians. I used to work with Joe Sample, as a jazz pianist with the Crusaders. Joe was very social, and after the show, he loved to be at the bar after the show, and he used to get swarmed with people, and he used to close the bars, not necessarily drinking a lot, but
Yeah,
just social and talking and meeting people and hear everybody's story. And then there's some people that are not like that, and they're more private. Like, for example, when I was on the road with Traffic with Steve Winwood and Jim Capaldi, Steve was very quiet and private, and his communication came out through the songs. And Robert is very much like that, Robert Lamb. Now, Jimmy and Jimmy Pankow and Jim Capaldi were very much alike in the sense that even though they probably never, I don't know if they ever met each other, but Jimmy can hang. We're going to go and have a dinner, and he can hang with the rest of the guys in the bar and just have a fun time, tell jokes, laugh, and all that. And Jim Capaldi, we were hanging out all the time out there. He wanted to see the world. He wanted to meet the world at the airport, at a restaurant, at a bar. But not everybody is social. So everybody has,
and there's
each.
nothing wrong with that, and absolutely, because for example, there's nothing wrong with being introvert and being quiet, but there's a difference between being quiet and non-social, private. Another thing is being out there, being publicly, being like you said earlier, being a jerk, or
Right, right.
you got to behave yourself, especially when you go out when you stay at a hotel. 'Cause you're why at the end of the day you are representing the
Yeah,
band.
my wife is very protective. Sometimes we go out for a dinner. I'm not really, really famously recognized, or I'm not famous or anything like that. And I'm kind of glad, you know, um, I can go to a restaurant or go to the supermarket right now, and it's not like I need security. Thank God. But there are some people sometimes that recognize me, or and and my wife kind of like is the first one that kind of likes to protect. And I don't mind if I'm at dinner or something like that, and somebody comes and pays a compliment, and we talk for about 5 seconds, and I sign something, whatever. Not something, especially when we're playing in town and we're playing that night, and the people recognize, oh my God, I'm going to your concert, and here you are eating a BLT. Oh my God, I just want to tell you, can we take a selfie? Yeah, that's not a big deal for me. Uh, my wife is very protective because she protects my off time and my working time.
Absolutely, and that it should be that way. It
Yeah,
should
and
be that
so
way.
now some people are more demanding than others. Like, I have a lot of people sometimes ask for the craziest request. Um, for example, hey, can you I have a birthday cake for my wife, but can you guys take it on stage and sing happy birthday to my wife? And, we can't turn the whole show on a birthday. There might be 20 birthdays in the audience, and we cannot basically change the show for birthdays,
Of course.
but some people don't realize that, oh my God, there might be a lot of requests like that. I get requests all the time. Can you send me sticks? Not buy or, but, I can't spend my off time in the post office. And
And
so
of course not.
yeah, so like, if you want to buy a t-shirt, a Wally t-shirt, there's a site. If you want to, there's a meet and greet that we do. And on the meet and greet, not only will take the photos, but if you stick around, I can take an additional selfie or talk to you about molar technique or the DW pedal or whatever. I don't mind that at all. And online, I help people with questions. What kind of drum heads are you using on the snare? I tell them, yeah, no problem. But there's a lot of people that really, and I don't blame them. It's really difficult to imagine that we actually do 8 months in and out on tour. Out of the 12 months a year, we do 7 to 8 months on tour. So we spend more time with our band than with our families.
And then yeah, and then I've seen it. I've seen it on TV and on YouTube or on. I've seen it where artists are with their families and people are all over them. People are. I mean, you guys are having dinner with your family at a restaurant. Guys, leave them alone. They want to spend time with their family. Now, yeah, if you're walking, like you said, if you're here in my town and you're with the band, that's a little different, I guess. So if you're with your family, respect. People should respect your time,
Yeah,
and people should respect your private time. So you do have a private life.
because you don't know if that's the only dinner that they've had in a month.
Exactly.
It might
Or
be.
in
And
months.
yeah, or a month. So for example, after like a 3-week tour, my wife comes to meet me on the road and we go out to a restaurant. She really, I don't blame her for being, she wants all that time.
Absolutely, I don't blame her either. Of course not.
And we cannot just eat room service just to be away from people. Sometimes you do, but there's and I would love to spend more time, but that's the price you pay as doing what we do.
Yeah.
I've missed my daughter's graduation from college, and I missed a lot of birthday parties, soccer games for my kids. You missed graduations. My dad's 90th birthday, I couldn't be there. And I'm not going to be able to go to my brother's memorial
Oh,
February 10
I'm
because
so sorry, man.
that's the first date with Chicago. That's
Oh
we
man.
start February 10 in New Orleans doing a private show, and from there we go to Texas. So for me to go to a 1 hour my brother's memorial, I would have to change this whole situation, and they would have to rehearse, which they never do, a drummer to take over the whole show. And the people that hired us, they hire me and the band that they saw.
Of course,
So they
yeah,
want
yeah.
that band. We would either have to cancel the whole show for me to attend, or and that's the way it is. I mean, it's just really tough sometimes that my wife's going to a wedding and I cannot go with her, and it's in the Amalfi Coast, and she's going to have to go alone without me because I'm in the middle of touring. And
Yeah.
so that is if touring and being a touring musician period is not for every musician. Some musicians, of course, it's beautiful when you can actually stay in town and teach or be have a diet of recordings, enough work that you don't have to go on the road away with your family. But these days, the main source of a lot of musicians is touring,
Yeah.
and you're either in or you're out. I mean, there's no halfway.
And I get
And
and which is one of the reasons why I assume and I've heard that some of the not just with Chicago but some musicians have retired, have stepped back, and they've gone solo. They gone to their own smaller bands. Like Tristan Bowden has his own. Like you said, he got married. He has his own band. He probably doesn't tour as much. And that's understandable.
Yeah,
But
that's
your main source of income, I know, is the touring because of all the downloads. Nobody's buying CDs anymore. Nobody's buying even though the record albums, are coming back, they're not as popular as it was back in the 70s and 80s.
you're
You know?
totally correct. I mean, the source of income has changed. Bands used to tour to promote the album. Now you do an album to promote a tour,
Yeah,
and
which is
the tour is the main income with the
yeah,
merchandise. And if you, for example, people go, "Oh my God, Chicago tours so much," and some musicians have a tough time. But then we get people from Europe and Japan. When are you coming? And oh, you're not playing in Wisconsin, Madison this year. Oh, you never haven't played Miami. You haven't played here, and we're playing 8 months out of the year. So, like, you cannot do 365 days a year on the
and
road.
if I'm not mistaken, you guys have actually scaled back. You guys used to be on tour, what, 10, 11 months out of the year back in the day,
Back long
back.
time ago.
Yeah, you guys
And
used to do a lot more. So you guys have scaled back actually a little bit.
well, however, that's there's a fine line. That's why you want to go on tour and make a lot of money, 300 dates a year. Then you come home and you're going to spend half of it in children's therapists and divorce attorneys.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it happens
Of
all of a
course,
sudden.
yeah.
You know, so there's a price to pay, and you either want to go and do it or you don't. But you cannot be on the road, dissatisfied, complaining. Oh my God, I should have. You know what happened at home. Blah blah blah. Da, da, da. I'm sorry. You either in or you're out. You either
Yeah.
and no half-ass. You're on the road giving 100%. Then when you finish, you're at home giving 100%. But you cannot be in limbo. I don't know if I want to go on the road while you're on the road. I mean, you cannot go, oh man, I wish I was playing with this, or I wish I was playing jazz, and now I got to play this rock music. Man, give the gig to somebody else.
Yeah.
You can't be grass is greener on the other side while you're here, because sometimes grass is greener on the other side. Cross the road and step on the grass, and you're gonna step on some cow shit. and and then you go, oh, it's not greener on the other side.
Not
So
too
be
crappier.
careful. Yeah, be careful for what you ask for.
Yeah. Oh, Wally, what you said that people could purchase Wally shirts and all that stuff. What is your link so I can post it on here? What's your
Oh
link?
man, Teespring. It's like TEE Spring. Walfredo Reyes Jr. I have to go online to look at it, or I'll send you a link.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah,
And I'll put it in the comments.
yeah.
I think I had a couple more questions for you before we man, thank you for again. I cannot appreciate it enough. Uh, what's next? Well, I know you're on tour this year. Is there any? And you said there were special projects that you're doing. Is there any that you could share, or is it
Oh,
still up in the, for 2024 or 2025? What are the plans for
well,
Walfredo Reyes Jr.?
I have two CDs out. One is Jamming at the Big Potato, and the first one was Wally World, music for all over around the world. And then I have a little trio in Cincinnati that I'm finishing
Okay.
some songs, and they're all cover tunes that we do. And then this year with Chicago, I'm also teaching. I love to teach percussion or drums, and I teach here in my studio, and sometimes I teach at other studios if it's more convenient. I live in the Cincinnati area, across the river, Newport, Kentucky, which is 5 minutes from Cincinnati,
Okay.
this downtown. And so you walk the river to the other side, and there's Newport, Kentucky. So I have a little studio here in my house where I teach and I record and I do videos and I send tracks to people, percussion and drums. And basically, Chicago takes part of my year, so I'm dedicated mostly to Chicago because it's like about 8 months out of the year
Yeah.
in total. And this year is going to be a great year. Like I said, Earth, Wind, and Fire tour. And then I'm sure after the tour ends in September, we're going to continue up until November or something. And then I have no idea what will happen after that.
And after your tour with EWF, after you tour with them, are you touring with anybody else, or is it just Chicago?
No, I don't have time hardly to do any other tour with
No, no,
nobody else.
I'm saying Chicago. Is Chicago going to be touring with another band, or is it just going to be?
No, just this year, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So when we do solos, we do a 2-hour show with an intermission.
Yeah.
We usually don't. It's like I said, people still complain that we didn't do this and we didn't do that. It goes,
Which is crazy.
We cannot do a 4-hour show.
Of course not.
Yeah, it's our prostates are not that great.
And like I said, that 2 hour, the 2 hours that you guys did when we were there was, like I said, it was amazing, and I was like, it was like every song was awesome, and you guys ended it with what I was hoping with 25 or 624, which amazing song.
We just did, by the way, a show. It was called Decades Rock Live with Steve Vai, Judith Hill, Robert Randolph, Robin Thicke. Who else? I'm missing a few. Kingfish, guitar player. Daughtry. So they're all like guests singing Chicago songs. And
cool.
Oh yeah. So the director's cut was out. We did this in Atlantic City in the Ocean Hotel Resort. But I think it's gonna come out on a DVD in the near future. So watch out for that.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. That'll be awesome.
That's gonna be great to hear with all this younger new artists, very talented, doing Chicago songs, and you realize, oh my God, like these songs can be like from now, So it's that's something that is gonna come out, and then I'm sure there's more happening in the works that I have no idea. But right now, I just had my eyes set. I got to get back to drumming because I spent, like I said, December was a tough. Yeah. Our beautiful cat died in Thanksgiving. My brother passed away. Yeah, he passed away in Christmas Eve. And another friend of ours, father, in Christmas Day. And then the year started, and we were like, oh my God, it's tough. You never know when this kind of thing happen, and it's unfortunate. And we all have it's basically, if you're above ground, you're blessed.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah. Yes. If you're there's challenges. Like right now, I got to get back to my drumming. I was not able to play drums most of December, and I canceled everything in December that I had to be with my brother. And so now I'm starting the year, and I got January. I got tomorrow and the last week of January, and then I'm back with Chicago. So it's not a lot of time. Even in the interview. Even in this interview, I'm practicing.
Well, again, thank you for taking the time, and again, sorry for your losses.
Thank you.
2024 will be, again, the Bible says tomorrow's not promised to anybody. Tomorrow's not promised to anybody, so we got to take advantage of every second we have breathing, and we've been blessed with another minute of life.
Yes. Absolutely.
So every time we open our eyes and wake up, we gotta say thank you, and it's a blessing, like you said.
Yes, sir.
Wally, thank you so much for spending this time with me, man. God bless you, and I hope you have a great tour. And you never know, I might be able to, who knows, if I might be gifted. I'm saying it loud enough so they can hear me for Father's Day. when
There
you
you
guys
go.
in Texas, with EWF, you guys would come, So God bless
Yeah.
you, man, and thank you
Thank you.
for spending time with me.
Thank you so much. And
Yes,
right
sir.
now, my wife has a cold, and I'm going to go to Kroger, and I'm going to make the best chicken soup ever.
Well, that's a good husband. Well, hope she gets better soon.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the season. So chicken soup.
Yep, chicken soup. Yep, yep. Take care,
All
sir.
right. You take care, JC.
You too, brother. Bye.
Bye bye.